Hello and welcome to Building Futures Career Conversations. Career conversations with leading lights across the built environment. Today I've got Deborah Smith from Smith and Love Planning Consultants. Hi and welcome. So we met each other on International Women's Day. That's how we know each other. Yeah. So we were on a panel together and we were discussing DE&I, which we're both really passionate about. And I remember meeting you and thinking, this is a lady I need to get to know really well. And I've been really fortunate over the last few months that we have got to know each other. And that's why I was so keen for you to come on today and to talk about your career, because I think you've had such an interesting career journey. And I know that I've been fortunate enough that you've shared some of that with me. And I think there's so many learns that I think people would be really interested in. So just for everyone who doesn't know your bio in the way that I do, can you just explain about your current role?
Yeah, so I own a small planning consultancy based in Preston. So we're a team of 7. I have a business partner, and that consultancy has been running now since 2015. And then prior to that, I worked for myself for 2.5 years.
So for you, if you could say along your career journey, were there any sort of defining or significant moments where you had to make any big decisions, and what fed into those decisions, or what can you think back on those and go, that was a pivotal moment for me in my career?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So I think the backstory is I've always worked. So from the age of 13, I've always had multiple jobs. So working was just the thing that I did all the time. So that's early days. Then a pivotal time, I started out in local authority, did that for 2.5 years. And then I thought I need to just spread my wings a little bit, get a bit more work experience of planning. So then moved into the private sector in a small planning practice that did mainly residential development, which was a fantastic experience in terms of my own personal professional growth. But that was a super hard job. So it felt a little bit like being hit by a train to move into the private sector from a local authority. And it was three men that ran that partnership. And it wasn't what I was expecting, that first job. I don't know really what my expectations were, but there was a pivotal moment in that job when I thought, this is really stressful. And it was very, very stressful. And I wasn't alone in saying that. And in that particular job, I thought to myself, how is this work? Is this how people interact with each other at work? Is this how people are managed in the workplace? So whilst I learned a lot in planning, that pivotal moment in that particular job was more about leadership and management for me. It was a light bulb that went on where I thought, I need to know more about this, because this feels, I don't know why I feel so stressed. Because I'm being managed in this particular way, why is the impact so big? Yeah. So I started to read a lot of Dale Carnegie books, and eventually got my confidence back at that particular point in my life to then move on to another job. But I needed to do the reading and the learning to understand what on earth work was, really, because you don't get taught that at school. No. You know, no one tells you about people. That's the biggest thing, and how are you going to interact with people, and how are you going to spend time in that office together, and that kind of thing. So yeah, then I moved on to a company, well, Turley's. You'll know Turley's. So I moved on to Turley's. I'd heard that they were a really good company to work for, so I sent a CV to them. So I moved to Turley's, and that was a breath of fresh air. It was so different. I really enjoyed my time at Turley's, and I got a few promotions there, which was great. And then when I had children, then came another pivotal point in terms of what to do when you've had children. Because I think in education, and then you move into your world of work, and I was very destination focused in this, the next promotion, and then I'll work towards the next role and the next role. And then you have children, and it collapses like a deck of cards, because there's more in your life. There's more to fill your time than just work, and that was the crux of it, really. So yeah, then there was this pivotal moment of what to do when I was there. So I'd got the promotions, I'd done really well. I was doing some great projects, had client lead on quite a few different clients. mentoring people in the office and other offices. So I felt like I'd done really well, so I was quite crushed. It was almost like a grieving process to go through at that point where I decided I need to move. There was a commute to work, so there was a commute from Preston to get to Manchester, which isn't a massive journey in itself, but at peak travel, as you know, these things are harder, aren't they? So I'd always decided that I wasn't going to do that journey unless I was happy at work. So that commute was absolutely fine when I enjoyed the job. No problem whatsoever. There was a pivotal moment when I'd had Ella, my eldest, and I'd just the two of us. We'd gone to John Lewis at Cheadle, and I was sat in the restaurant, and I looked round and I realised it was really busy in the restaurant at lunchtime, and I suddenly thought to myself, and at the age of 32, I thought, looking back now, I think it's a really stupid thing to think, but I thought, why is it so busy in here? Why isn't everybody at work? Which is what I thought, because I'd been on this treadmill of education, work, you know, and I got to the point of 32, gone on maternity leave, and realised not everybody was at work, which seems a stupid thing to say, really. But I'd also realised, because work was, you know, working for a corporate company is, you know, it's very busy. You are very busy. It's very time consuming. It consumes a lot of thoughts outside of work. And I remember walking into my local park on maternity leave again, because these two things happened on my first maternity leave. I walked into the park, and we have a really gorgeous avenue in my local park, double tree-lined avenue, which is really nice, and I'd run around that park often. And I walked into the park with Ella in a pushchair, and I looked down the avenue, and I thought to myself, I've never seen these trees before. And I'd run around that park a lot. But it was only because my whole life had slowed down to a maternity leave pace, and everything comes a lot quieter and a lot slower, that I'd noticed those trees in the park that day.
And what did that allow you to do, that perspective, that distance? Did it allow you to say, to have the headspace to almost go, do I want to carry on down this corporate? Because you do, in a corporate world, you have almost your career path goes. Did it allow you that space, headspace to almost go, could there be an alternative? Could I blend work and life in a different way? And is that how you ended up
Not at that
setting
point.
Your own practice? No. Okay, interesting.
Not at that point. It was really gradual for me, because I went back after maternity. I took a year off because it was a busy job, so I took the whole year off. I went back the following year, and I tried to be the person that I was before I went on maternity leave. I tried to be the person that was sharp and switched on and showed up and led and do all the mentoring that I did before. But I was working 3 days a week, and then after a while I worked 4 days a week. But it was really hard. It was very hard to do, simply because you are not the person that you were before, and there is no getting away from that. You know, and I think we were all, you know, as women, we're fed a line or a yarn even that you can have it all. And it didn't feel like I was having it all at that particular point. But then not long after that, I had a second child. So there's a 3-year age gap between them. So I worked another 2 years and had Lily. And it was only, and this is the biggest pivotal point in my career, was when I went back after having Lily. So at that point, I had one in nursery, one in school, and was commuting to Manchester. And that was so stressful, so very stressful. And I really wasn't the person I was before Ella or before I had Lily. I'd started at that particular point to do some inner engineering work. So to look at myself and how, why was I reacting in certain ways, in certain circumstances to certain things at work. Yeah. And we'd just come out of a recession. So when I went back after having Lily, it was 2010. So there was a slightly different pressure at work. Yeah. You know, the economy wasn't what it was before I'd had Lily. So yeah, that was the biggest pivotal moment of my career, because I decided to leave and I didn't know what I was going to do. I had absolutely no idea. I didn't leave to carry on planning or even to start a business.
So when, and I think, by the way, can I just say, first of all, as a working mum myself, I understand and I empathise and I completely get how motherhood really challenges you but also changes you and transforms you. And it's not all negative. It's about accepting that evolution. And I think that employers, and especially us in the built environment, as we are trying to encourage more diversity, in order to do that, we have to talk more about that transition that happens to women and working parents. It could not necessarily always be the woman. Sometimes it's the man that was in that partnership.
Yeah, that's a really valid point, because I think having gone through running a business and gone through that, in this process of running a business, I know it's not just women that feel this. Yeah. I think men, though, hide it an awful lot more than women do.
But if we're really truly going to get more diversity, then we have to start talking more about the things that actually are the reasons it's not happening at the moment. Yeah. And that is that as an industry, we want D&I, but we also then have to do the actual work to achieve that. And that means creating more flexibility and having role models who are wanting to have that conversation about how they actually manage that process. How do we juggle this? Because you want to be able to have a career, but at the same time, you also want to be able to be present for your children. Yeah. So just coming back then to yourself, and you said you made that decision. At what point then did you go, actually, I'm going to do this, I'm going to set up? What was there a length of time with that? Was there a light bulb moment? Was it a gradual moment that you went, oh, okay?
There was 6 months between me leaving Turley's and setting up the business. And in that period of time, my husband was in a job that he didn't enjoy. Right. And I knew he needed to leave that job for his mental health. Right. And I thought, and we couldn't survive on one income. Yeah. And we couldn't survive on no income either.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So I'd walked out of a job. We didn't have much left in savings because I'd just had a year off work. Yeah. So there wasn't much that we were living off or had savings to dip into or anything like that. So my husband needed to leave his job, and I could see that coming. I thought, my only thought was, I need to earn some money. Yeah. That was it. When I left, that was it. I need to earn some money. And somebody came to me, it was my mother-in-law, said she had a friend. She's got a fence that's been refused planning permission. Can you do an appeal for her? That was it, a fence. So I did the appeal. Unfortunately, I didn't win that appeal for the fence, but I did tell her it was 50-50 at the outset. And I think I charged her about £50 to do that appeal for her. And then I realised, actually, planning is a very good career. It is a very interesting career. It's getting harder because of lack of resources in local authorities, and the government isn't doing anything about all sorts of things that need to be changed in planning. It's overcomplicated. But I think as a career, at that point, I thought, actually, it's not. I haven't fallen out of love with planning at all. It was just that what I was doing was really difficult and prevented me from doing it. So it was really easy to set up because I wasn't scared of failure, because I would have just gone, oh, well, I tried it, it didn't work.
Yes.
At that point, I'd left a job. So all I needed was a laptop and some insurance. Yeah. And that was it. So I set it up. I didn't take any clients that I had before. I had some contacts, but I didn't take clients that I'd had before because the work that I did at Turley's was very different and often needed a team of people to do that. But through some contacts, I started to get some work. And it was really organic. I had no website. It was all word of mouth and referrals. But that's exactly what it needed to be in the first 2 years, because my youngest, Lily, was 1.
Right. So it was managing how you, as a parent, you could then manage running your own business. And then did it continue to grow in that organic way in terms of your own consultancy?
So, So I was 2 years in and I thought, this is great. This is great. I'm really enjoying this. I've got some great clients. I'm managing to fit it in with the children. All good. And then after the 2-year mark, I started to get really busy. And I started to think, actually, it'd be quite nice to share this with somebody because I'm quite enjoying this. Yeah. So I got in touch with somebody that I used to work with at Turley's, and it took a while to get him involved and to bring him into the business. But then we set up the partnership. So by the time that my business partner joined, I already had enough work for more than one person.
Yeah.
So and there are problems. It was great. One particular problem is holidays.
Right.
So when you set up your own business, yeah. So I'm trying to think of the things that might be interesting.
Because I think it really is.
So if you work for yourself, because I've worked for a local authority, I've worked for a partnership, I've worked for a corporate company, I've worked as a sole trader, and now this is a limited company that I own. So I've worked in a few different organisations. So one of the problems with working for yourself, lots of freedom as such, but you still have clients that you need to work for, and booking holidays can be quite difficult, because what I stopped doing was booking holidays far in advance because of, maybe I needed to be at a hearing or a public inquiry, or I might have a deadline, or a planning application was going to go in 2 weeks before, and then you've got your holiday and all the documents land on the Friday before you were going on holiday, and there's nobody else to do it, and that's the difficulty of working on your own. And especially I think if you're female and new as well, you want to meet everybody's expectations.
Absolutely.
And I can't say that I was all confident. I really had to. Nobody tells you, yeah, Debbie, you're great. You can do this. I really. It was like starting again. So starting as a sole trader, and it just being me was like starting my career again at that point. Because even though I was a planner,
yes,
it's different being a planner in a corporate organisation than it is being a planner as a sole trader.
So outside of the holiday, what other practical tips could you give? Because I get asked this all the time by people that we're helping with their careers. When they get to a certain stage, if they work for a big corporate, big contractor, big consultancy, even big public sector organisations, there's often a point with any discipline within the built environment, and everything to architecture, engineers, planners, etc., surveyors, where they often say, is this the right time for me to set up on my own? What wisdom would you pass on, having gone through it, now set up a business that's up and running? Obviously, there's the holiday you mentioned. Is there anything more?
I think that you need to know yourself well enough to be able to ask yourself the question, what do you want? What is it that you want? Because I've reflected on that a lot. I've reflected on, why did you set the business up? What was it that you wanted initially? Because what I found in the first 3 years of the partnership was that it was the hardest time of my whole life. That was incredibly hard. Because as well as running the business, as well as being a planner, and I've got a new business partner, and we get on very well. But you have to be everything. I mean, that's the other thing. You've got to be everything. You've got to be, your marketing, your HR, you are recruitment, you are accounts, and your bookkeeping and everything. And I'm not good at everything.
Yes.
I'm good at a lot of stuff, but
planning in particular. But yes.
But I'm not good at everything, and you have to forgive yourself for that you can't do everything. You just have to be able to bring in the right people.
Yes.
So I think for anybody who's thinking of setting up their own business, the key question is, why? What is it that you want? What is it that you want?
And is there a right answer to that would lead to, and therefore it's a good idea to set up on your own?
No. Because everybody's unique. Yeah. So the motivation for anybody is probably going to be different. The thought that stays in my mind from when I left Turley's, that key point when I went, I can't do this, I'm really stressed. Yeah. And I can't raise my kids with a stressed mum. Yeah. It was really, really important to me that they weren't going to be raised by somebody that was stressed, and I was going to be totally... Yeah. If I was having children, I was having children and looking after them, So the reason I left, and the thing that stays in my mind, is that I left because I wanted to see more of the children. Yeah. And that's why the first 3 years were really hard, because that didn't happen. Right. I don't think, there was guilt. Yeah. On a conscious level, there probably wasn't guilt. And very recently, at the beginning of this year, a friend said to me, he said, do you think you carry any guilt over, how much you've worked? And I said, quickly, no. no, I dealt with that. I've dealt with that. And then the day after, literally less than 24 hours later, I was in a coaching session that somebody had offered me with networking. He said, would you like me to offer some coaching to you for an hour? So I was like, yeah, we'll do that online. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So he said, tell me a bit about yourself. Yeah. So I started to tell him about my background, and I had left Hurley's, and I left because I wanted to see more of the children, and this emotion hit me in the stomach from nowhere, and I just filled up. Yeah. So on a subconscious level, it was there. I was still carrying guilt from working.
But we have to talk about it.
Yeah,
the thing is, we have to talk about
That's real life.
because we are, as an industry, very conscious of 1% of people on site are women, 13% across the industry are women. That is where we're at. There is no organisation that I have dealt with, big or small, public or private sector, across the built environment that doesn't say to me, one of their 3 key goals is to get greater D&I. So actually the conversation we're having needs to happen, because what we don't want to do is have a load of wonderful women who do actually choose to become architects, site managers, planners, engineers, surveyors, etc., who then, because of what happens when they then choose to have a family, are then, and maybe not even having that conversation with their bosses about how the guilt. So it's kind of on how they get that work-life fit. And I think we have to, because as an industry we have to evolve. We can't expect people to change for the industry have to evolve so that that's how we achieve it. So I think it's great that you actually have talked about it today, and the steps you've taken to it. Can I just circle back to the start? I guess I've got 2 questions. The first one is, it's great. So you as a young lady did choose planning. What made you choose planning in the first place?
It's a complete accident.
Right.
So I was really good at drawing and art and textiles. That was my bag. Right. And it was simply because I was at college and I had no idea what to do at university, but everybody else was going to university, so I should go to university.
Right, got it, yeah.
Okay, which happens a lot.
Yep.
Because my daughter's 17 now, and it's looking like that. She's going to do it because everybody else is doing it.
So, what you do. Yeah. Yeah.
So I literally went through the UCAS prospectus A to Z like this, and I remember doing it A to Z, trying to find something that I could do at university. I was thinking about textiles or fashion or something like that, but I thought this is just going to be potluck for me. If I managed to get to create a career in fashion or design or textiles, I feel like there would just be chance. So I thought, I don't think I could do that. So I just went A to Z, and I got down to U, which is nearly at Z, urban planning, looked it up, and you needed economics or geography to do urban planning. I'd done economics. So I'd done art, politics, economics, fell into all of those really, except for the art as well, and did urban planning, and I really liked it. And I really there's no drawing in it. I thought there was some drawing, but there is no drawing in planning. That you need architecture for that. Yeah. But I really liked the sociology side of planning. Yes. I really liked the built environment in terms of well-designed places, landscaping, materials. I have a great appreciation for that, but I don't. I can't draw. I can't draw buildings or anything like that. So I love that. But the reason that I am a planner as well, because I go into schools and colleges as well and talk to people about careers, is so I've thought about this in recent years. Yeah. Why do I like planning? Yeah. What is it that I like about it? And that's meeting new people, seeing new places, and solving problems. There's lots of problem solving in planning, increasingly so. And
also creative thinking. I should imagine you have to think quite laterally in planning and overcoming problems.
It's like 360 thinking. Oh yeah, the way that you problem solve now. I couldn't explain the process, but solving a problem now in planning is a skill that I've been able to apply in my own life in dealing with some of my personal. Not issues, because it's not issues as such, emotional baggage that everybody carries, no major issues, but it's just, personality stuff. That level of problem solving and analysis I've been able to apply on myself.
So that kind of leads quite nicely to my next question, which is, so you said earlier, you said that you read when you'd got to the world of work, you said that, which is absolutely true, by the way, and I remember going through this myself when I left university and started working, no one teaches you almost those unwritten rules about the world of work, and you said you'd researched it. And I wonder, can you share not only, I guess, what you've learned about how to work and that how you manage yourself, because you said you learned how to almost be at work. Yeah. Now, I should imagine it's gone beyond the Dale Carnegie books that you talked about, because now you've got even more experience about that. How do you manage yourself in the world of work to become incredibly successful? What are those hacks? What are you doing?
So that's taken 14 years of training myself into, and how I do that is I read. It was reading right. Books. Right. I can give you a book on anything. Right. Anything to do. In
fact, you have recommended some to me already. So yes.
I do recommend a lot of books. In fact, I've just bought 2 on the way here. There you go. Yeah. Reading. It started out with reading, and then it's moved into watching videos and YouTube and podcasts and courses, and it's been my number one priority, and this is not selfish, has been myself, because I realised very quickly when I first started working in the private sector, and then more so as a parent, and again more so as somebody that runs a business and has staff to look after, that if I'm not right, nobody's right. Absolutely. You know, and in the winter of 2018, after this 3 years of intense work where it was deadline, constant, and me thinking this doesn't look like success, that's when I really had to dig deep. And it was a fierce determination to get to know myself more and better, so I could handle the things that we all got to handle, the things that come at you, an angry email, a client who won't pay a bill, a particular kind of client. I'd noticed that I had a particular kind of client, and a lot of my clients are men. So you know, I'd realised I was stepping up to match certain characters, and I needed to learn a lot about myself in order to work out why I was so triggered in particular situations.
And reading around, were there any particular authors or books that were, or was it just a succession of continuous learning and just watching different things?
It's constant.
Right.
It was. There's two things I applied on a daily basis. Although one of them I've only just picked up on a daily basis. I can't say that I've done this for 4 years, but the thing that I did and have done for 14 years, and I've eased off a bit now because I've done a lot of learning, but there isn't an end point. This is a journey. Is witnessing my own thoughts, feelings and emotions. So using a witness or an observer to do that. And I don't mean another person, I mean taking yourself out of yourself.
Exact process, what does that look like?
Well, I've recently thought to myself, what did I do there? How did I do that? How would I explain that to somebody? And I heard somebody explain it the other day like this, and she said, if you are triggered by something, imagine, just visualise you're going to take that emotion that you've just been hit by something, someone's come at you, and it's really triggered you in some way. And she said, just imagine you're going to take that emotion out of you and place it in front of you and look at it. And this is where the planning skills come in for problem analysis. Look at the emotion from all angles, because we've only ever got our own lens, our own view on the world. And that's where the problems come in, because you only ever look at it from one angle. So you need to start to think, look at this from all angles. Have I been triggered like this before in another situation? Because quite often, and when you get to my age as well, you'll have been, you will have been triggered before in the same way. And that's what I was finding the things that bothered me when I first started working in the private sector when I was 25. They were showing up again with a different person with a different costume, but it was the same trigger. So that's helped me in work massively. It's helped me to deal with difficult clients when I've needed to. Not that we have many, because I'm quite blessed that a lot of our clients are lovely. And it's helped me with children.
And it's dealing with the work, because I heard someone say it's not about work-life balance, it's about work-life fit. because you're not two separate people, you're the same person, and you don't become a different person at home and you're not a different person at work. It's how you make it fit and how you are genuine in both of those. Yeah. And I should imagine that you can apply it in any situation, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think we talk a lot, don't we, about authenticity at work, but that's going to be different for everybody. Yeah. And also, who are you? Because you've got a role. I've got a lot of roles. I run a business. I'm a planner. I'm a parent. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. And by the time you've operated all of these roles for a number of years, you forget who you are. Somewhere in there is something that looks like an authentic you, but you play that many roles. Yeah. And I was desperately trying to bring an authentic leader to work.
But I think I think this has been amazing honesty, but also practical, what you've talked about today, because I think we all, and I don't think this is a gender thing, I think ultimately we all have those roles, regardless of gender, regardless of background, that we're all trying to achieve success in work, but also we're all trying to deal with what work gives to us as well, and the baggage that can give. And I think that it's been so helpful for you to describe in real practical terms how you actually do that. And I think that idea of almost placing that emotion, dispassionately looking at it, trying to understand how do I feel about that, take myself out of it, what is that emotion, why am I triggered by that, how can I deal with that in a different way? I found that really fascinating to listen to. I'm so interested in that journey that you've had to create your own consultancy, and that honesty of how did it happen, what's been hard about it. And I hope that people who've listened to this and have had that thought at some point and gone, maybe I want to do this, have thought about, have learned something. So thank you so much for coming in and chatting to us today. I'm sure people can reach out to you on social media if they want to know more about you and your journey. Yeah. And thank you all very much for tuning in today. You can hear further episodes on our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Instagram, and you can get the podcast both on Apple and Spotify.